trick in making my love stick? What's the trick?
Hello, and welcome to the Film Critic and the Common Man podcast. While other film podcasts might just commit war crimes, we at least make sure to incorporate a lesson in masculinity while we're doing it. Every episode, we discuss a film from the perspective of a film critic and the perspective of a common man. We may not agree, but it certainly won't be boring. I'm your co-host, Ben Miller. I'm a film critic, and I've read about films from my own site, Ice Cream for Freaks. I'm joined by my brother and common man co-host. After all, the devil watches over his own, Jake Miller. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing all right. How's everyone else?
I hope they're doing all right out there. We are coming up on our big 50th episode, and I can't believe we've actually made it this far, much less still doing it. And we
looks like we made it.
We'll have some fun stuff coming up on our 50th episode, but we're not there yet. We kind of teased this episode a couple weeks ago because Jake is a big fan of this movie and I'm less of a fan. But let's get into it. Today we're going to talk about Fury, written and directed by David Ayer, starring Brad Pitt, Logan Lerman, Michael Peña, Jon Bernthal, and Shia LaBeouf, co-starring Scott Eastwood, Brad Hinkey, Jim Perrick, Xavier Samuel, Anna Maria Marinka, Alicia von Rittenberg, and Jason Isaacs. Opened on October 17th, 2014. Solid box office, 85.8 million US, 126 international, $211.8 million on an $80 million budget. No Oscars or Golden Globe attention. Some smaller prizes here and there. Some small nominations like the Critics' Choice Awards got a Best Action Movie, stuff like that, but nothing very big. Rotten Tomatoes, solid numbers there. Critics, 76% for critics, 84% for audiences. Much more on the side of it than critics are. I will give a quick plot summary of Fury before we get going here. Fury set in the waning days of the ground battle in Europe in 1945. The Allies are in Germany. And have a lot of resistance. We follow Don War Daddy Collier, which I don't think they ever say the word Collier. Anyway, War Daddy, who is Brad Pitt, a battle-hardened first sergeant in the U.S. 2nd Armored Division, commands a Sherman tank named Fury. The other people are the gunner Bible, which is Shia LaBeouf, loader Grady Kunas, which a great name, Jon Bernthal, and then Gordo Garcia, the driver played by Michael Peña. Their driver, Bowgunner Red, just was killed in the latest battle, and he needs to be replaced as they continue to march towards Germany. His replacement is a Private First Class Norman Elson, a young type that's played by Logan Lerman, a young typist who is essentially thrown into this tank last second. As it goes into, as it moves forward, the crew kind of doesn't like Norman because he doesn't know what he's doing. He has an aversion to wanting to kill anything. They hesitate under fire from an anti, which
is the problem in war.
Sure. You go through basic and you're just like, okay, well, as they go through his aversion to violence does not adhere him to the rest of the tank crew. War Daddy essentially, after capturing a small town, he forces him to shoot a Nazi just to kind of get him over the fact of killing people. Later, after they capture a small town, Don takes Norman and helps clear an apartment and discovered 2 German women. One of them, one of the ladies is young and is attracted to Norman. They go in the back room and they have some fun. Meanwhile,
fortunes of war, man.
Everything's kind of calm and cool until the rest of the crew comes in, and it's a big awkward mess after that point. Then there's a standoff, but as they're about to depart, German artillery strikes the town, including destroying the building and the ladies. This Norman has a mental breakdown in the process, but they get back in and they're starting to push forward. And there's a big tank battle in a field. All the other tanks in the company are destroyed, and Fury is the only one left after a after a German Tiger 1 ambushes them. A really cool scene we'll get into. And then as they go along, Fury is immobilized by a landmine. They're at a crossroads they'll fix it and everything. But as Norman goes to scout everything out, they realize that a large group of SS soldiers are coming. So they
SS battalion.
Yes, an SS battalion. So they decide to act like Fury is has already been disabled while hiding inside. They kill as many people as they can. In this battle, their ammunition starts to run low. They keep taking losses. Eventually, Grady is shot through the stomach with anti-tank ordnance, I think.
Panzerfaust.
Yeah. So he's shot through the stomach. He's shot through the stomach and dies. Gordo tries to throw a grenade. It actually accidentally falls back into the tank. He covers it, sacrificing himself and killed. Bible is shot with small arms. Eventually they realize, and then War Daddy is shot by a sniper, though he is still living. He tells Norman to escape under the hatch as they throw a bunch of grenades in there. War Daddy is killed. Norman is able to hide underneath the tank until the morning. He is proclaimed as a hero, and the war continues. The end. What a sweet ending, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
well,
so
as with all World War II movies, it's just nothing but, flowers and sunshine.
So even with the that's a good place to Zinni to start. Like World War II movies are one thing where you're like, okay, well, it's not exactly happy and all this kind of stuff. This is as bleak and grimy as it gets. There is like even the little bit of levity is so small and interrupted. It is very, very bleak from the jump.
Any levity is extremely fleeting and quickly kicked aside by extreme violence.
Yes.
And the realities of war. Yeah.
And it's kind of plays a little fast and loose with history. As far as what the Germans were doing in the final days of the war. Now the one thing I looked at the movie and I was like, okay, like they said, like, okay, not all German soldiers. There's German soldiers doing the one thing. That's one thing. SS you kill. Like it's kind of a get out of jail free card. Like, it's not regular Germans, SS Nazis. No, bad. SS not like you're never gonna get sympathy for killing an SS. Like it's just
right. Yeah, no, it's there's one line where Norman says, "What do I shoot at?" And he goes, "The Nazis, you dumbass."
Yeah.
And it's as clear cut as that.
Yeah, like, there's no ambiguity.
If they're Nazis, if they're SS, they're done. They're not some guy fighting for their homeland, fighting for, it's not a draftee or someone
the initial
these
thing
are bad guys.
The initial thing that initially kicks off everybody's disdain for Norman is he didn't shoot kids who were in the Hitler Youth. And he's like, oh, it's just kids. Well, they blew up a tank. So the justification of it obviously is worthwhile, but that's the kind of the push-pull of this movie in general is, what is the message of this movie besides war is hell? Like there is, I don't know the logistics. I don't know what the deeper theme is trying to go for. Like that a good man will always be corrupted by the terrible things they have to do. I don't know. You really get no backstory on anybody in this movie.
No. But I mean, I do think that's probably more realistic than a lot of movies about war that we see. And it's just man's ability to be cruel to fellow man, but it's all motivated out of fear. It's scared animals.
Absolutely.
It's scared animals. Corner a possum in your garage one day and see how scary that bastard gets.
I have the world's most benign. I have the world's most benign dog in the world. my dog
Yes.
is never aggressive. She sleeps 20 hours a day, and you've got her in a corner before, and
Yep.
she got scared.
And then I got scared.
Exactly. So I mean,
And I said, you win.
yeah, exactly. So there, I get that part. Like
that really is, I think, the most frightening thing about war
mm,
and about human conflict in general is that everyone is scaring everyone else, and it's making everyone desperate, and it's making them do whatever they have to do to try to get them and their friends out of there.
mhm.
I mean, scared animals are the most dangerous animals.
Yep.
And you put humans in war, combat, conflict, you're going to get scared animals, and they're going to react violently, and they're going to do horrible, horrible things.
I think it's really interesting because I view this movie as kind of three different movies in and of itself. Like there's an action movie of what this is.
Yeah.
Which I think the action in this movie from a pure spectacle is top notch. Like the battles, like that open field tank battle is pretty unimpeachable. Like that thing is like, that's the final, the Alamo last stand, pretty great. All the actual action part, and whenever they're trying to take out the artillery guns and all that stuff, that stuff's pretty great.
That's probably the best since Saving Private Ryan or Band of Brothers. Those are the only two performances as far as war action goes.
As far as war action, the war film itself, as far as like, what does this mean for war? I think it's pretty middling. Like personally, like I look at it and it's like, well, what are you trying to achieve here? Like, what's the goal? That is, like you said, is it just bleakness? Is it scary? I do see the side of things where you were saying. Now, as a character drama, I think it is an absolute failure. Brad Pitt, exceptional in this movie. I think he's great in this movie, and his characterization is such where his job is to protect the guys in the tank. And his job commanding the tank is to also keep the other tanks alive as best he can.
Yeah.
And I think that's really good. But as far as like all the stuff with Norman is, and I don't think it's Logan Lerman's fault. I think it's just a mix. And like, I don't think they followed, like, I think they wanted to make a tank movie, and then they just got a little too deep into what they were doing.
Okay.
Like, I don't really buy any interaction that anybody has outside of Shia LaBeouf and Brad Pitt. For some reason, them two it's like when they're to get like their interactions and their little asides and stuff like that, I'm on board. Everybody else, I'm just kind of like, I don't really understand.
I don't know. I thought John Bernthal did pretty good at being the hard-nosed, mechanic, gun loader type guy. I mean,
so I think all the actors themselves did really well. I don't say an actor but I think it's more like the characterization of these characters. Like Bernthal, I love Bernthal. Everything he's in, I'm always on board with. He's never in enough. Like when I say he's in, like even when he's in things, he's not in it long enough. Like he's usually the first guy.
Have you seen his podcast? It's pretty good.
I've heard about it. That's the other thing I like about Bernthal. He's a very emotional, raw, like willing to be sensitive guy. Like everything he's the father of sons, stuff like that. Like as a human, I love John Bernthal. I just wish he was in more movies.
He was amazing in The Accountant.
Oh yeah, great in The Accountant. Peanut. He shows up in small little movies out of nowhere, like Peanut Butter Falcon. He's in it for like 2 scenes. He's great. You said, he's great in The Accountant. He's in Wolf of Wall Street for 20 minutes, blows the doors off. Every time he's great. Anyway, but sorry. But I mean, like, okay, the second half of the scene with the girls. Like, I get I get it. but at the same time, it's like it just goes on, and I'm like, okay, we get it. They're like, they have these baser instinct. They're like, there's no time for sensitivity in these situations anymore. I guess that's the goal. Like,
yeah, it's I remember discussing this movie with our granddad after he watched it, and he said he didn't like it. And he said he didn't like the way they treated each other. Their own people treated each other. But something you have to realize in some professions, in some situations, it is a hostile workplace environment.
Absolutely. It's on purpose.
This is the way it is. This is not, if you're going to get your feelers hurt, get the fuck out of my tank.
You're literally
get the fuck out of my patrol car or my fire truck or my ambulance.
You're
or
literally,
whatever the fuck it is.
These are life and death situations. Yeah.
I don't care about your feelings. No one does.
Yeah.
No one is.
Yes.
You think the guy shooting at you gives a shit if that hurts your feelings? Suck it the fuck up. Get up. It's big boy world. It's not pretty. It's not fun. Get in.
Yes.
It's a man's world.
And in this case, like, I want to talk about the violence real quick, because it's like, I always have a problem, not a problem. I always view it like Saving Private Ryan was a cornerstone for violence in a war movie, for better or for worse. Because the reality, it's the, like, Spielberg, what Spielberg did is he painted such a reality and such the visceral reality that some filmmakers saw that and go, visceral, got it. It's like, no. That's not what the point is.
Wait.
And I think I'll get into my thoughts on David Ayer in a little bit, but I think he goes a little overboard here and there. Like, I get the violence. I get the necessity to show the violence and not screw away from it. I get all that. But heads exploding from stuff like that, like, and the kind of splattery effect of heads exploding, or somebody losing a leg, and like, I'll give you an example. The main people who die, Scott Eastwood, Brad Pitt, Bernthal, Michael Peña, Shia LaBeouf, all die pretty clean deaths.
For the most part.
And like, Scott Eastwood shot like 7 times, but he's just all shot in the chest. He falls down. That's that. It's like, these guys aren't getting arms blown off. Like, it's he saves it for the side people you don't know. Yeah.
Well, I mean, look at war movies in general. I mean, this could probably be an entire discussion in and of itself. But look at The Longest Day. Okay? A movie about D-Day. All right? And guys get shot and go,
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Or
then look at Saving Private Ryan.
Yep. Yeah.
Where guys are looking for their arm that just got blown off.
Yes.
Or, in this movie, a guy's piece of his face is laying on that.
Yeah.
That's reality. That is the horrific nature of it. I can appreciate it for what it is, because it's historically accurate. I don't feel like it's gratuitous. When I think gratuitous violence, I think more like Quentin Tarantino. You know what I mean? It's violence for violence sake, whereas this is telling a story about something that happened.
Yeah, and I think I think it's interesting. There's a way to balance it. Like, I watched Guy Ritchie's The Covenant, and that it's obviously not based on a true story, but the idea of a U.S. soldier killing a number of Taliban people in Afghanistan, and it is relatively bloodless. It's shocking to me how relatively bloodless he kills. Jake Gyllenhaal shoots dozens and dozens of people, but there's no really viscerality to it. And then I see like we talked about it before, Hacksaw Ridge. Hacksaw Ridge goes way too far. Like I'm like, okay, it's like I'm not saying death is not a part of it, but this is gruesome. Like and it's like I understand the violence of war, and I will always give a movie a pass for the violence of war, like in general. But I don't want to feel like you're thinking up of a fun way for somebody to die in a war movie. And that's it's at points when I feel.
Yeah. I guess there's with war movies, there's a very fine line between telling an accurate story and not mushing it down, telling it like it is, and explaining the amount of sacrifice that some people have gone through.
Yeah.
And doing that accurately, and then also trying to entertain people.
Yeah,
there's a real fine line. I mean, it's like, you know, there's Die Hard and there's you know, this movie, or
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Or Lone Survivor.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's you're telling a story and you're telling a makeup story. And it's easy to have fun with a makeup story. When it's a real story or it's somewhat based on a real story, you realize people have actually been through that.
Yeah, there are people who have had the hell of being in a tank in World War II.
Yeah.
And by the way, movie does a great job. Well, actually, I don't think it does a very good job of acting like the tank is claustrophobic. They actually make it seem kind of cozy, and I imagine it is much less than it actually is. I cannot imagine submarine and tanks are kind of on the same large of like, I don't know. Like, I think I'd eventually lose it. And
I don't think I could ever be in the Navy or in tanks or armored personnel carriers. I'm
the claustrophobia of it all.
I get claustrophobic.
Sure.
Yeah. But it is something I do like about that aspect is at a couple points, Brad Pitt goes, "That's home. This is home."
Yeah.
And as someone who's made my living on the road, depending on a truck, I can tell you, like, this is home. This is the closest thing to home I have.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And
it very much
it takes me to work and it gets me back home at the end of a long week.
And that's kind of the part of the camaraderie of the guys. Like, well, it's like, I don't necessarily love this house, but this is the family I'm stuck with.
Yeah.
And like, you got to make it work somehow. And all that. So, okay, I'll ask you this. If you have to take a job in the tank.
Okay.
You have to be one of the 5 roles. I think the front gunner co-driver is probably the role to do. Like, you're essentially just watching out and shooting people. Like Grady's loading, which seems okay, but he also is the mechanic. And then you have you know, Bible doing all the actual shooting and the mechanics and did it say on one?
On one.
Yeah. Okay. And then War Daddy obviously at all on the steering. And like, if it's me, as far as like, oh, I'm a green guy and I have to be in this tank, that's the place to be.
I would want to be the driver.
Yeah.
I just don't like being a passenger too much.
I gotcha. You want to be in the control of it. I want
to be the driver, I think.
I want to talk about David Ayer for a second, director of this movie. Wrote and directed this one. This is not his first movie. I thought about having him be the Pull for a Dumbass just because I kind of wanted to go through his filmography. He started out as a writer only. He wrote 5 movies. Get ready for this run. U-571.
Yes.
Training Day.
Yes.
Fast and the Furious, the first one.
Uh-huh.
Dark Blue, the Kurt Russell movie I told you about, a cop movie, and the movie SWAT.
Yeah.
So he's pretty successful to start out those first 5. By the way, he makes his lunch off of Training Day because he wrote it. He was the only writer. Nobody else came and wrote it. That doesn't happen ever. Even the president of Warner Brothers called him and congratulated him for that. And then Training Day, obviously being the massive success that it was.
Yeah. And we're going to have to do that.
We'll do Training Day one day. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. So he makes his directorial debut with a movie I know you've seen, Harsh Times.
Yes.
With Christian Bale, a rough movie.
It is a tough one, but it is good.
Yeah. The one after that,
you got to put your big girl panties on.
That is not. Yeah, it's not for the. But you see, kind of like what his thing is. His thing is this. The movie after that is a movie called
Put people under the most amount of stress you possibly can and see what bad shit people will do.
And probably cops.
That's kind of
most likely cops. Yeah. So then after that, he does a movie called Street Kings. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's for
Street Kings.
It's Keanu Reeves as a kind of a dirty cop. Chris Evans and Forrest Whitaker are in it too. It has some. It has some interesting ideas.
Is Forrest Whitaker?
He's the captain.
Yes.
And Hugh Laurie is like is there as the he's like internal affairs.
Yes.
So it's
okay. I have seen that.
There are some parts of it I like. But it's a little up and down. A movie I have never seen after Street Kings he did End of Watch, a cop classic.
You have not seen End of Watch.
I have never seen End of Watch. I know. I've never known anybody who it's like, oh, I was a police officer once. It's like, yeah, End of Watch is incredible. Like, it's just everybody. Yeah. I know, another tough watch.
It is.
But
it is a very tough watch. But I will say probably, I don't know. I won't say too much. I won't say too much. We'll save it. We'll
probably do End of Watch one day. So he does a Arnold Schwarzenegger movie called Sabotage the same year as Fury. And then he makes the Suicide Squad in 2016.
Oh, yeah.
It's a DC movie. It made so much money, but was so much of a disaster. It's kind of one of those things. It's like, wow, it made a lot of money, but it was terrible. And then he made I
like the soundtrack.
I did too.
That was
it. He made a Will Smith Orcs and Pixies movie, the cop movie called Bright from 2017. It was very bad. Very bad.
Yeah, I didn't watch that.
And then he made a movie in 2020 called The Tax Collector about Mexican gangs, and one of the Mexican gang members, I believe, was Shia LaBeouf. So, okay, Jake.
A guy named Shia is Mexican.
Okay, Jake, but now's a good time to talk about it. You talked about Shia LaBeouf and his pulling out his own tooth for this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Shia LaBeouf is a nut.
Yes.
He has some issues he probably has to deal with. And can you imagine putting that man, you're like, okay, Shia, you're going to play a Mexican drug dealer, a gangbanger. He's like, got it. I'm on board with this. Like, so I think that's what he did. His name was Creeper. So, I mean, if you get a chance to see the trailer, take your time.
I think I'd wear a Kevlar vest on set. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because it's one of those. He seems like one of the guys that's like, well, my gun's actually loaded because it makes it feel real. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I'm a method actor.
Yeah. Method actor stupidness. David Ayer's got another movie coming up. It's an action film called The Beekeeper. It's starring Jason Statham. So that's all you got to know. Yeah. So, I mean, David Ayer, it's a guy who's dined out so much on the fact that he has Training Day and End of Watch. Those are the things. Like it's and I love Dark Blue, and Fury, as much as I'm not the biggest fan of Fury, it was very successful.
Yeah, no doubt.
So I mean, you kind of got that side of things. I just see him as kind of a guy who he's too bleak for me, as in bleak, but I'm not talking about just like, okay, things like you said, he's going to put these people in these situations and it's going to go badly. It's not that. I think it's like he seems to be enjoying the fact that it's going badly.
Well, yeah, maybe. It's I would describe his movies as uninhibited.
That's a great descriptor. That's a good way to put it.
If it's violent, he's gonna let it be violent.
Very.
If it's gonna be sexual, it's gonna be sexual. If it's gonna be this, it's gonna be that.
He's not gonna hold back.
Right. And which I appreciate. Can it feel gratuitous? I can see how some people might. For me, not so much. I feel more that way about Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah. He's trying to shock you, and yeah.
Yes. It's more the jump scare.
Yeah.
Instead of the drama. But I don't know. I mean, I like most of the movies that he's done, and
Yeah.
I don't feel like they're gratuitous.
I got you.
But
by the way, so this is I don't know if we've done another movie of his, because he's such an anonymous actor. But Scott Eastwood in this movie. Scott Eastwood works a little bit with David Ayer. He was also in the Suicide Squad. You'll be shocked to know some of his early movies were Flags of Our Fathers, Gran Torino, Invictus, Trouble with the Curve, movies his dad was in. Do you have any opinion about, he's like, even as a just like a handsome guy, he's still kind of anonymous.
Yeah. I like him just because he's not Clint Eastwood's son. He is.
Yeah.
But he's kind of
he's not doing what his dad does. He's not doing the Eastwood thing. He's not we know his name is Scott Eastwood. We know he's the son of Clint Eastwood, but he's not doing the gruff, quiet. He's a handsome kid. He's got a little charisma.
Get off my lawn.
That's right. So I mean, yeah.
You feel lucky, punk.
Guy's still chugging along. He's supposed to be in the sequel to Wind River. They're apparently making a Wind River sequel. So
what?
A Wind River.
Wind River?
Wind River, yes. Wind River, yes. That's right. So he's supposed to be in that one, but who knows? Yeah, so Scott, every time I see Scott Eastwood, I'm like, hey, Scott Eastwood. Yeah. It's kind of what I think of. Let's take a quick break. We'll come right back. All right, we are back. Every week I go through the filmography of a filmmaker and put Jake's cinematic knowledge to the test. It is time for Poll for a Dumbass. This week we are talking about the go-to Mexican in cinema these days. That's Michael Peña, the always welcome sight of Michael Peña. He's been working for quite some time, and his first movie is one of the ones I wanted to tell you about. A movie that probably has much more affinity in our household than any others. My Fellow Americans. He is the little he is going across the border and runs into Jack Lemmon and James Garner, the former presidents. It's a really silly movie, but I just remember enjoying the hell out of it when we were kids.
Yeah, it's fun.
It is fun.
It's a fun, goofy movie.
Yeah. That was in 1996. Made a couple small movies in here and there. The next movie that anybody had ever heard of was in 2000, a very memorable role in Gone in 60 Seconds.
Yeah, the first one?
The Gone in 60. This is the Nicolas Cage one.
Wait.
Nicolas Cage and Angelina Jolie stealing the cars.
Yes.
So there's a scene where this dog eats car keys.
Yeah.
And these white guys are following this dog around. It's like, oh, you get your jollies off on dog shit, bro. That's Michael Peña. So
yeah.
So
Yep.
He's kind of just one of these guys, just like, okay, you know, kind of the stereotypical Mexican actor. That is until 2004. He stars in I don't remember him in this movie, but he's in $1 Million Baby.
I've definitely seen it. I don't, but yeah, I'm the same way. I don't remember him.
I've seen $1 Million Baby before. I remember actually liking it, and I remember like Anthony Mackie being in it, and all the stuff. I don't remember him.
I don't either.
I don't. Yeah. So, but he was in $1 Million Baby in 2004. Now he really broke through the next year. Kind of the star of the movie and the guy who probably got the least amount of shit for being in the movie. He was in Crash.
Yes.
He's really, really good in Crash.
He is.
He's kind of the like everything you can say about what you don't like about Crash. Michael Peña is kind of innocent.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
And from there, he's kind of like, okay, you're the guy now.
Yeah. No, I like Crash myself. I mean,
it's kind of one of those things. Like, it's not the worst movie in the world. It just had bad luck. It's the movie that it shouldn't be Best Picture. It should have been Brokeback Mountain. And everybody expected to be Brokeback Mountain. And it's not Crash's fault that it won over Brokeback Mountain. It's not, it's like, yeah, they campaigned it and all that kind of stuff, but it's kind of painted as a villain for that specific reason. It's like Crash doesn't hate gay people and it doesn't hate the story and all that kind of stuff, but that's kind of lumped in because of the defeat.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely addresses racism and homophobia and all these different cultural things that were, I think, kind of at that time were first kind of coming out, you know, to where everyone's just talking about it and like, okay, this is the thing. Let's address it. I mean, kind of like Brokeback Mountain.
Yeah, it does a certain it approaches it a certain way. It's just unfortunate. I kind of feel this way about like whenever somebody wins an Oscar and people don't like it and they're like, he's the villain. I'm like, they didn't do anything wrong. It's just that the thing you like didn't win. And you need somebody to point the finger at. It's like they didn't say don't vote for this person. It's just kind of the natural byproduct. I don't think Crash is not as bad as everybody thinks it is. So he's kind of much more into the forefront of things after Crash. 2006, he was in the movie Babel, which is a very bleak, sad movie. I wasn't going to mention that one, but I was going to mention alongside Nicolas Cage, World Trade Center.
Yes.
It's funny because it has enough space after 9/11, but it's just enough where I didn't give a shit about the movie. It's a very strange movie to talk about. Like the year before, United 93, an incredible movie. A very harrowing, like really captures the moment. And something about this one just didn't get there.
Yeah. 9/11 movies.
They haven't figured it out yet.
Well, it's just, I think there's a certain war weariness amongst Americans who lived through it.
Because there's so much thought behind it. It's like, I remember exactly where I was and all this kind of stuff. And
you understand the gravity to it. You understand, I mean, everything behind it. And so it's kind of, you can appreciate it more.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're like, this isn't entertainment for me, though. This just reminds me of a real bad day.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like,
especially that's a really great way to put it. So movies are supposed to have the aspect of entertainment, and this movie is trying to make 9/11 entertaining. And because it's a PG-13 movie, there's not really all the grossness with it. It's not really like, oh, this is a artifact or anything like that. You're like, I don't know, just like it doesn't feel right.
Yeah. Well, I would compare that movie. I think it's a good movie. I think it was well done.
I think so too.
I think the performances were pretty good, and usually I hate Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, I think he did a solid job. Yeah, I agree.
But it's kind of like whenever have you ever been to the Oklahoma City Memorial?
I've heard
bombing.
I've heard it's pretty.
The museum.
I know what you mean. I have not, but I know what you mean.
Yeah. So we went 2-3 years back. We went to it, and it's excellent.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't recommend it enough. It's really well done. It's really amazing, but it is just so heavy.
Yes.
On
sombering.
Yeah. I mean, when you go see, a setup of a bunch of little kids' shoes and stuff that they recovered. I mean, it's not entertainment.
Yes.
Which it shouldn't be entertainment. It should be educational.
It's informative. Nobody should be having fun at the Auschwitz Museum.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
So it's, to me, those types of movies, like Schindler's List, is not like woohoo.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was a good movie. Like,
yeah, it's you're learning something. I think that's what makes Schindler's List so special. Is a movie like this should not be entertaining, and it is. And but they handle it with the right gravity.
Right. But
World Trade Center, big movie for him. The next year, a trash TV classic. Talk about go from one end of the spectrum to the other. Shooter,
yeah.
A bad movie that I watch all the time.
It is, but I like it.
I do too. I'm the same way. It's like, it's so dumb. So it's kind of like, hey, Mark Wahlberg, we want you to be a cocky asshole. He's like, got it, guys. And he's staying in his lane. I appreciate it. But
ask me if I've ever shot a can of Dinty Moore soup.
Have you okay, so there was a running joke about this because our dad used to make fun of our cousin's boyfriend and called him Dinty Moore. Yeah. So we had a running joke. Have you shot a can of Dinty Moore soup?
I have.
There you go. I like it.
It is very satisfying.
I'm sure it explodes in great ways.
I also enjoy eating them.
A couple of years later, he does this is the one I don't think you have seen, and I'd be really surprised if you've seen. It's a movie called Observe and Report with Seth Rogen.
Oh, is that a security guard movie?
Seth Rogen is a mall cop. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I've heard of it. I've never seen it.
So it's really, really interesting because it's like, what if Taxi Driver was a comedy? Okay. And so it's like, he's like, Seth Rogen is a mall cop who takes his job way too seriously. And Michael Peña is kind of his buddy who kind of encourages the seriousness of it all. It's interesting. I like the idea of taking chances. I love dark comedy. It takes some interesting directions. A couple of years later, he does a lot of stuff, but I did want to say, have you seen the movie The Lincoln Lawyer? Matthew McConaughey lawyer.
Yes.
I like The Lincoln Lawyer. That's really entertaining.
I do too. I thought that was pretty good.
Michael Peña plays. You want the whole Michael Peña experience? Watch The Lincoln Lawyer. He's not in it very much, but at the beginning of the movie, he's a sensitive, nice guy, and then he's wrongly put in prison. And at the end of the movie, he's a Mexican guy in a prison, and it's like the whole spectrum. What Michael Peña does good in that whole thing right there. So I mean, that's what you get with it. I had mentioned previously Into Watch. Excellent. Yep. You said he's really good in this movie, correct?
Yes, he's outstanding.
I've heard this.
It's probably one of the best cop movies.
Yeah,
that there are.
And I know the action gets a little the action gets a little wacky, but as far as the cop relationships, I've heard it's really, I'll get it on my list, and we'll probably do it on the podcast one day.
Oh yeah.
The next year, I think I've talked about it a couple of times. American Hustle.
Yes.
So he is the Ab in the Ab scam. This is the This is the fun thing, because he's actually a Mexican playing a Muslim
Arab. Yeah.
an Arab. And it's funny because, you know, we have seen both living in Texas and living in the Middle East. You kind of see it and we're like, I get it.
It's like, you motherfuckers look the same.
They do look the same.
Sorry.
You want to talk about two cultures that could not be more different.
Oh man.
Could not be more different. But I mean, just as a visuals, it's like, yeah, I get where it comes from.
You could pass for them and they could pass for you.
Okay. After American Hustle, he's in Fury the next year. 2015. Usually whenever somebody does a superhero movie, I'm kind of like, okay, you're kind of mailing it in. He was in the movie Ant-Man. Have you? I know you don't do the Marvel movies, but the movie Ant-Man, he plays kind of Ant-Man's best friend, and he does this thing twice in the movie where he gives like these exposition scenes, and they're like flashbacks, and he's like, I was talking to this girl at this bar, and she had this, and then I did this and this and this, and the action's going in the background, and he explains, and it's hilarious, and he's really, really funny in the Ant-Man movies. I'll post a clip of it, his explanation. It's really great.
I saw an interview with Paul Rudd the other day, and I said that might be a couple that I have to check out. I really like Paul Rudd.
Yeah, and they're fun. They're fun. So I mean, it's one of those things where like the lower stakes Marvel movies, or ones that don't connect, I really like. And those Ant-Man ones really stand on their own. They're just kind of like, oh, their own little story. Like the ones that don't have serialization, it's nice. He's fun in those movies. Same year, a movie I'd like to do eventually, in 2015, another movie really shows Michael Peña's range. He plays an astronaut in The Martian.
Yes. Great movie.
And he's exceptional in the movie. Like he's a lot of fun. Competency porn, like that you would never. Martian is great as far as like, would you like to see people do their jobs well? It's like, I think I would. Like, and the problems with the movie are circumstance or nature. It's not somebody screwing up.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. And let's see. Speaking of the shootist, Kate Mara.
Kate Mara in that one too. You're a big fan of Kate Mara, aren't you?
I am. I'm a Kate Mara fan.
I agree. Yep. Kate Mara is great. And a billionairess, by the way.
Yeah. Well,
her family owns the New York Giants.
All right. Well.
So I got one more for you.
Tattoo removal.
So in 2017, he was in. I wasn't going to mention this one. He's in the movie version of Chips. He played Ponch in the movie Chips.
No, I'm afraid not.
I wasn't going to mention that one, but a movie I think you might have seen for 2018. Have you seen the movie 12 Strong?
12 Strong.
It is about horse soldiers.
Yes. Afghanistan.
Yes. Right after 9/11.
Yes. Yes. I did see that.
I've heard some really mixed things on it.
Yeah, it wasn't great.
Okay. That's what I was expecting. I mean, it's kind of what like.
I mean,
it's funny because they make somebody. I read there's a reviewer I really like, and he had written about it, and he said, there's some poetic justice in their thinking. Oh, look at the tenacity of the American military because they had to ride horses. And it's like, oh, look at the idiocy of the American military not taking into account because they had to ride horses. Like it's kind of the two side of like, well, like how prepared are you to do this?
I couldn't help but think about the Rambo movie where he goes to Afghanistan and he's on a horse.
Jake, the producers of Rambo would like to thank the tenacity of the Afghanistan people. Is how that movie ends.
Yeah.
like
They killed a lot of our guys.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's same thing. Like,
but here's the funny thing about like post 9/11 military movies.
Yeah,
they're difficult to criticize in a way.
They are like,
and because you're like, I don't want to seem unpatriotic or like I don't support the military or what they did or this or that. It's a movie, but so it's weird for me.
Yeah.
At least for me, I get uncomfortable criticizing.
I know what you mean.
Movies.
I know a lot
even
of people,
if they are sorry, but just stupid as fuck.
I know a lot of people.
It's hard to say.
I know a lot of people who did not like Lone Survivor.
Yeah.
For not necessarily, it's like, okay, like they called it like jingoistic and over like an overinflation of the actual circumstances, stuff like that. It's like, well, I think like for some reason, especially critical is like, as a critic side of thing, if you criticize something, it doesn't mean I am criticizing the actual soldiers or the events. I'm criticizing the filmmakers for the choices they've made.
Yes.
And
yes. Or the actors.
Or the actors, yes, exactly.
The
it's
sound guy or
yes,
whatever the case may be.
The actual stuff in the story is not what my criticism is about. It's about like the film itself. So yeah, that's it's always kind of the tough balance to go. Jake, I gotta give you credit. Last week with police comedies going 12 for 12. This week, Michael Peña, 12 for 13, baby. You are on a roll. Very nicely done.
I like Mexicans.
I like Michael Peña. Every time he shows up, I'm like, Michael Peña.
I do too.
I do too. He also, I wanted to mention, he was in they made a second season of Narcos. And he he plays the real life person, Kiki Camarena. Kiki Camarena. And he was killed because he was an undercover agent. He was discovered and killed, right?
Yeah.
So he plays.
He was undercover DEA agent.
Yes.
DEA agent, I believe. Yeah.
Yes. So he was. That's who he plays in one of those seasons. And I think the follow-up season is like them trying to find him and find out what happens to him. What happened to him? So I mean,
I think, was he the one that got caught in the? He got killed by the. What did they call that program where they were selling guns over the border? Oh crap! I can't remember.
Rancho Buffalo?
Nope. It doesn't matter.
Oh, okay. Well, he was. So there's.
Well, it does, but
there's some really interesting stuff you can read about it. That's a really interesting character. I know he was in that, and he does a little TV here and there. He doesn't have anything coming up, but I mean, he works nonstop, so good for him.
Yeah.
Oh no, he's secret Scientologist. Who knew?
Oh man, is he really?
Apparently so. Like,
crap.
So you're always like, oh, Michael Peña. Oh man.
Has he reached Thetan status yet?
I'm sure he makes enough money. Whatever. All right, good job, buddy. 12 out of 13.
Hey,
there you go.
All right.
It's about that time.
I think so.
All right.
Step on in. You're in the hot box.
Let me pull down my manhole cover. Each episode, instead of me steering the conversation, Jake peppers me with a series of questions that I must answer truthfully. Sometimes it's just trivia. Sometimes it's not. What you got?
Why don't you like this movie?
The second time around, I liked it better. I still don't think as I said, action movie, spectacular. A war movie, it's okay. A character drama, terrible. And kind of when you put it all together, it mushes into if it was a straight tank action movie, man, it'd be cool. Like, I know you need some dramatic heft and all that kind of stuff and all that. I get it. But I just like, it's like, oh, what's really going to fix things is like, let's make this kid commit a war crime. Like, and I know it's all justified. It's like, oh, it's an SS officer and all this kind of, like, he killed Americans. He's wearing American jacket, whatever. It's just kind of like, okay, like, what are you trying to achieve? And
okay, so if maybe this was more like Hunt for Red October or U-571 or something like that, just a war movie.
yes,
Not necessarily like a young man's journey to find his manhood.
Yeah, like if instead of getting a green guy who doesn't know anything about killing, maybe a guy who he has a little bit of experience with a gunner and he has some rocky moments with these people and all the, but I mean, like a seasoned war guy, like who has to get into this, is maybe that's a much more palatable movie for me.
Okay. Yeah. I can kind of see that.
But U-571's being a good example. You're surrounded by Navy guys. It's all like, nobody's like over their heads. There's no new guy. It's all, everybody knows each other.
True. Yeah.
So and that's a good, I like that as a comparison.
Yeah. So you mentioned this earlier. But okay, for you, what job on the tank would you want?
If I knew how to do it, I'd love to be a mechanic. I am highly, highly impressed with anybody who can perform any duty that looks difficult with relative ease. I once watched a guy take apart a printer, and he was pulled this big part out, and I just went, he knew exactly what to do. Like, like I am always impressed at somebody who has the ability to do something that looks impossible with relative ease. And the idea of putting together a tank after it fixing a tank is
well, and it's amazing. Like at my current job, I was watching someone cut cucumbers the other day. They did it so expertly and so precisely. It was art.
Yes.
I mean, it was so impressive.
And
it really was. And
it's something
just
so
anytime someone is an expert at something, it's impressive to watch.
You see those families that like make candy and they like cut little pieces of candy. There's like, they've been doing this for so long and they're so good at it. Or
it's just muscle memory.
Vegetables are a great example. Anybody who can cut an onion with like precision, like anybody who can do that, anybody who can just hop on and play a piano, I'm shocked. I'm just like, you're a wizard. Like, anybody who is good at something that seems impossible.
They can just pick up a guitar and just I'll play you this.
Yeah, like, wow, okay, yeah.
It's almost like, fuck you, man. Like, I don't even.
What are you trying to prove? What are you trying to prove here?
Yeah, shit. All right. Amongst the tank crew, who is your favorite character?
I like War Daddy. I mean, Brad Pitt is really good in this movie, and he's an enigma. There's so much about him you do not know. And boy, would I love to know. Like, I really like his. I wish there was more of it. Whenever he was really upset about Red dying, and he steps aside to have his moment, as opposed to doing it in front of his guys. Like, I really
he has
like
a breakdown, basically a panic attack.
But he does it away from them. He's like, they can't see what I see. They can't see what I feel. Like, and there's a lot of that that's really interesting. Also, great Peaky Blinders hair, like the straight back and the
great haircut.
Great haircut of that guy. By the way, good for Brad Pitt figuring a way to take his shirt off. Doesn't it? You can put whatever burn scars you want on this guy. He is built like a brick shithouse.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
and yeah. By the way, he's like 50 years
that
old.
apartment scene, I'm like, okay, he wouldn't bed down the ant.
I mean, yeah, I mean, there's some, there's some interesting things.
I would have been doing more to her eggs. I can tell you that much.
Well, so Bible has a ring on. Bible has a ring on, doesn't mention his wife once.
Interesting. Yes.
So,
good point.
But everybody else, I don't see anything. But War Daddy, very respectful.
I like how deep he is without being deep.
Like,
if that makes sense. Like,
yes,
he's an asshole. I mean, he's a complete asshole. But like, there's that moment between him and Shia LaBeouf's character where he says, "And then said I, send me."
Yeah.
He finishes the Bible quote. Yeah. So he's a very educated, he's a smart guy. He's a deep guy. He's
ideals are peaceful,
guy.
history is violent. He throws that quote out there. So it's the great quote.
He's not a knuckle dragging grunt.
He's a smart guy. His intelligence, his world weariness, very defined. I agree. Brad Pitt, great job in this movie. Excellent. Brad Pitt's never bad, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we are in a tank.
Okay.
We're trucking down the road. We got a mission. Everyone else got knocked out. We hit a landmine. Tank's busted, Top. Are we hauling ass or are we staying and fighting?
I mean, it's kind of one of those things. It's like, you kind of have to, I think of it like this. Like, if you put yourself you're in Vietnam and your car breaks down, you might have no idea where to go, but you have cover. Like, you have somewhere you can hide in the trees. You can sneak around. Germany, there's some spots that are just wide open. Like, there's
farmland.
But I like
there is in Vietnam too.
The chances of escaping in occupied Germany, I don't know what that number is. Like, you're invading Germany and you're probably pressing forward. I can't imagine anything's behind you. The human side of me is always like, well, I'd like to survive.
Well, of course.
So, I mean, that's kind of always the go-to. But at the same time, if I realize that that's futile, I mean, they had a pretty good plan. By the way, this is based on an actual anecdote, apparently.
Yeah.
So apparently there was a broken down tank with hundreds of littered bodies around and one young soldier in the tank. I don't know the legitimacy of that actual story, but I mean, it's a cool story. So, but I always just default to, like, it's like, obviously with the rash of mass shootings these days, it's like, well, what would you do if you saw a mass shooter? I'm like, well, I'd try to throw a chair at him. So are you trying to be a hero? It's like, no, I just don't want to die. Like, if I don't die, that's a solution. Like, yeah.
Or if I'm gonna die, I go out with my boots on.
Yeah. It's not like I tried. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, but it's the way I look at it is like, okay, so if it was just me there at this crossroads, I think I'd try to booby trap the fuck out of it.
Sure.
And then haul ass.
Yeah, you don't want to just go. Yeah.
But if you said, no, I'm staying and fighting, then I'm staying.
That's
fighting.
one thing. Yeah, you're right. It depends on who's staying.
And that's what happens. War Daddy says, I'm staying and fighting, and everyone's like, I'm not leaving you.
Not leaving
And
you. Yeah, you've been
they
with
all
them.
stay.
Like I said,
Yeah.
they've been with them
I
been with
get
them
that.
since Africa. So
Yeah,
I mean,
since North Africa,
that's a lot
yeah.
of, yeah. Yep.
Italy, yeah.
By the
France,
way,
Belgium, Germany.
Do you know any movie besides Patton to show any sort of action in Africa? Patton's the
Was
only
it?
Patton's the
wasn't
only
it-
thing I can think of.
Um,
Not counting
wasn't there
Casablanca or like
wasn't there a Tom Cruise movie where
oh
he
at the beginning of
was,
Valkyrie?
yes,
He's
yeah,
in-
yeah.
Oh, at the beginning
He
of
was in
Valkyrie,
North
he's
Africa
in North Africa
at the beginning.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because like there was
they're few and far
lot.
between.
There's a lot
They're
of
few and far
fighting,
between.
and there was a lot of fighting in Africa, and they just
Yes.
it's just not seen. It's not portrayed very often.
It was a forgotten front,
Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
of World War II.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right. Okay. If I am your tank commander
Okay.
and you're Norman,
Okay.
and we have that one scene, and I drag you out of the tank, and I say, shoot him. I tell you to shoot that dude in the back. You gonna do it? It's a fucking Nazi, man.
And I think to myself, you know, it doesn't matter how long you've been in the war or what level of war you have seen. You know what Nazis are. You know what they've done. I don't care if you've been there 6 months. I don't think I'm going to have much disdain for killing a Nazi.
Yeah.
So,
well, what does he say? His job is to kill you, and your job is to kill him. It is as simple as that.
Simple as that, exactly. And I'd like to say, sure, it's not going to be a problem, but I can't say that with any sort of confidence. I'd like to say yes. Hopefully Brad Pitt wouldn't have to force me to shoot the guy. Brad Pitt's so intimidating in this movie. I think if he said, shoot that guy, it's like, okay. Like,
shit. I would have been asking for the job.
Can I shoot him, please? Yeah.
Yeah. But shoot him now and then deal with the PTS later.
That's right.
You know?
That's right. That's right.
Oh, well. All right, buddy. Well, you can get out of Fury here. You can go ahead. You see that hatch? Do you see the hatch?
Pop that open. You can hop on out. Do you remember the name of the other tanks? One was Murder Inc., which
yes,
I don't remember. Awesome name. I don't remember the other two, but do you off the top of your head, do you know what you would name a tank? I don't. I'd probably do something silly.
Shit show.
There you go. That's a good one.
Yeah.
I like it. Like, yeah. All right. Before we go, buddy, what is your film rating of Fury? For you, I know you're a big fan.
Excellent. I guess if I had to put numbers on it, it'd be in 8.5 to 9 range, probably.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like it.
It's up there.
I appreciate that. I'm sticking to your convictions. Like I said, I thought it was terrible. I rewatched it. It's not as bad as I thought it was. I have it 3 out of 5. So, I mean, still respectable. The action side of it is unimpeachable. Like, it's just whenever they're tank battles, the tension ratchets up. It's great. I think it's All right, but I think that just about does it for this episode of the Film Critic and the Common Man. Thank you so very much for joining us. You can follow me on Twitter at NebBen and Letterboxd at Neb810, on Instagram, Ben Miller Movies. Check out my website, icecreamforfreaks.com. You can follow my other writing on the Film Experience and Cinema Scholars. Big week this week, Jake. I saw Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I'm not saying it's the best animated movie I've ever seen because I've only seen it 48 hours ago, but it might be the best animated movie I've ever seen. It is.
I might have to check it out.
I don't even like the hyperbole of it all. I'm not going to say it's the best ever, and I'm having a tough time not saying that.
All right.
So
I'm going to give it a shot.
it's good. I really like it. Bring your kids to it. I brought my son to it. He had a blast.
Okay.
You can also
Cool.
find me at other pods as I'm the David Lewis of podcasting. Jake, where can the people find you? I assume just rolling down the road in your M1 Sherman. Do you want to be in the tank or do you want to be just hanging out on the roof?
I'd rather be in it.
I think so
Probably.
too. It feels much more secure.
Yeah, it's home.
Yeah, that's right.
I'll be home.
I'll
be home.
I thought the coolest part of any time the tanks got into a battle is whenever if a tank got destroyed and the turret flies off,
Mhm.
the top flies off. I'm like, this is cool looking. Like it's just a cool visual.
Yeah.
Make sure
I guess he lost his head.
Make sure to follow the podcast on Twitter at Critic Comment Pod. Please like, subscribe, rate, and review. Enjoy the show wherever you get your podcast. We'll catch you guys next time when we're talking about the Elder Eastwood. We are talking about the most underrated of Clint Eastwood movies. We're talking A Perfect World with Kevin Costner. Can't wait to talk about that next week. Thank you guys so much. We will catch you guys next time.
Love y'all.
What's the trick? What's the trick? In making my love stick. What's the trick?